He'll outlet it to Phillis on the far side wing to McEwen. Top of the three, lets it fly, and he knocks it down. Gets it over to Phillis. Phillis takes a quick jumper as he takes the catch. Can't get it. Hughes is there for the rebound for Otterbein, and he's there for the putback right of the rim. And it's intercepted away by Chase Moyer that time, who picked his back pocket. Moyer with a no-look bounce pass to McKenzie on the right side of the rim, and McKenzie gets it to fall. Fakes a pass. Now he penetrates towards the basket, kicks it out free throw line. Three on the way from the corner for Chase Moyer, and he's able to knock it down.
From the studios of 33 College View, it's time for the Todd Adrian Coaches Show here on WOBN 97.5. Here is your host, David Kinder.
Hello, sports fans, and we welcome you to the Week 2 edition of the Todd Adrian Coaches Show here on WOBN 97.5. I'm your host, David Kinder. Joining me in studio, third-year head basketball coach Todd Adrian and Otterbein sophomore point guard, who was last year's Ohio Athletic Conference Freshman of the Year, Jake Phillis of Zanesville. And today's show, as every show, is brought to you by Westerville Automotive. Serving the Westerville area for 20 years, they have two locations on Westerville Road and in the Uptown area, just seconds away from Otterbein on Main Street. They're on the web at westervilleautomotive.com. You can follow them on Facebook at Westerville Automotive Uptown or call them at 614-890-6700. Coach, Jake, thanks again for joining us down here in studio. And, Coach, since we last spoke, Otterbein suffered two losses, both to Wilmington and Mount Union this past week. The Cards now sit at 3-14 overall, 2-8 in OAC play. And, Coach, we'll talk about the Wilmington game first, seeing as how that was the last one to happen. And on Wednesday in the postgame show, you talked about it. You had a 10-point halftime lead. You ended up falling 69-63 to the Quakers. I know we've already talked about it once, but if you could just elaborate on the differences between the first and second half of that ball game.
Well, I thought we were doing some nice things, really kind of executing our game plan. We had come into the game. We wanted to kind of slow it down a little bit. They wanted to speed it up. We really did play a nice half of basketball there. Kind of stumbled at the end of the half. In the last 2 or 3 minutes, we might have been able to put them away for good that night. But let them have a couple of looks at the basket and turn the ball over. Really gave them some momentum going to the locker room. So the second half, I didn't think we really had the energy we needed. It got a little chippy out there, and they had a couple of guys step up and really respond. And in the end, they fought back. We fought back. And one of their guys stepped up, made a couple of threes, 2 or 3 threes there at the end that really was the difference in the game. So afterwards, I wasn't real happy about our passion. I think it's typical this time of year, especially with a young team, with a record that's, it's not exactly what we'd like for it to be, to maybe get kind of lulled to sleep a little bit, late January, early February. And I just don't think that's acceptable. It's something that, our guys like each other too much, and we need to keep coming to work every day trying to get better. And we only have a handful of games left, so I was disappointed with our locker room in that, an opportunity to come out there, especially a good one where we were up, we let slip away.
Jake, you've scored double figures in each of Otterbein's last 7 games. Your ability to drive to the hoop, create shots, really seems to have improved as the year's gone on. How big of a part of your game is that to you?
It's pretty big, but I mean, the reason I'm getting to the hole so well now is because I'm understanding the offense a little bit more. I know at the beginning of the season, it's a new offense we had to run. It was new adjustments we had to make, and also playing with a new starting 5. And I think as the games went on, I got more comfortable in my role and my spot. So I mean, the windows I saw now are getting bigger.
During the last pregame show Saturday in Alliance, we talked with assistant coach Micah Mills, a former point guard himself, about some of the things he's worked on with you this year. From your perspective, what is it that Coach Mills has shown you this year?
Coach Mills has shown me a lot this summer. I mean, I've tried to work on my catch and shooting. I've been working on the gun, trying to get some shots up every day. I know my three-point shot was lacking last year, so just trying to get in the gym more and getting some shots up from the mid-range and also behind the three-point line.
Coach, building off the loss to Wilmington on Wednesday, you gave the team off on Thursday, practiced on Friday, then played the league's second-best team Saturday at their place at Mount Union. Despite the 85-64 loss, you told us in the postgame show you thought it was one of the Cards' most complete games of the year.
Well, yeah, against a good opponent, and they were playing well that day at their place. We came out, A little nervous, I thought. Make some good plays, just couldn't make any baskets the first 5 minutes, down 10 or 11. And then came storming back. I think we went on a 26-6 type of run, got up 10. And then again, didn't finish the half out well, and it's something that we need to work on, just focusing, not just when we're behind, but when we're ahead. Keep doing the same things we were doing, not turn the ball over, really execute what we're trying to do out there. But yeah, in the second half, it was back and forth. They were up on us. We got back, almost tied it up a couple times, and really, I thought it was a dogfight. With about 4.5 minutes left, 4 minutes, we were down 7. We had actually made 3 mistakes on ball screens, 5 out of the 7 possessions, and like the last 5 possessions, and they made us pay. They're a good team, especially at home. They shoot with a lot of confidence. Then it got away from us at the end. We started to try and press and do some things, and they made some baskets that were fairly meaningless, but showed up on the scoreboard that I didn't think the score ended up being indicative of how we played. I really did think. We played with a lot more passion than we had the night before, and that was good. And they did a lot. We did a lot of things better than we had done all season. Unfortunately, Mount Union's a good team. They made some shots, and we just weren't able to overcome them in the end.
As you mentioned, the team got Thursday off from practice. How intense did that make the Friday practice?
It was better. This time of year, I think coaches are looking for ways to keep their team fresh, especially when you have pretty much everybody on your team is underclassmen. This is the time of year when they start to wear down a little bit. So it might be something that we continue to do. If you're playing, you practice from Monday on. By the time Saturday gets here, it's your 6th day in a row. And that's quite a few. And these guys are also good students, so it's not like we're just messing around, skipping class and not studying. They do a good job in the classroom and on the court. So we have to keep that in mind when we're at this point in the season, especially when we're playing with mostly 18 and 19-year-olds.
Jake, we knew going into the game that Mount Union was the OAC's best three-point shooting team, and they didn't disappoint, hitting 12 of 24. What were they doing to get such open looks? And even when they didn't get open looks, still knock them down with a hand in their face.
They did a good job of shooting threes in transition. I think that's where we struggled a little bit on our transition D from the three-point line. But, like Coach said, other than the first 4 minutes and the last 4 minutes of the game, we played 32 minutes of great basketball, probably our best basketball of the season. And I think that's a good thing to work forward on.
Jake, you led all Otterbein scores with 13 points in the game. Coach said it was one of the most team's complete games played all year. Would you agree with that?
Definitely, 100%. I think we had 5 guys out there, 6, 7 guys that played good basketball, not just on the offensive end, but on the defensive end. I think we did a good job of that. And like I said before, other than the first 4 and the last 4, we played 32 minutes of our best basketball.
Coach, lastly on the Mount Union game, Otterbein's run into a streak of some really good point guards recently. Where would you rate Mount Union sophomore point guard D'Allen Jackson?
Well, he's about as good as it gets, and there's some good ones in our league. He can get to the rim. He was one of those guys that pulled one of the threes in transition. He runs the offense well. He's got good handles. He sees the floor, and then you mentioned the 3-point shooting. He's one of those kids that you can guard very well. He can create his own shot, and even if he's not open, he can still knock it down. He did that a couple of times, and he just creates trouble for you because when he gets the ball. You better have. Typically, we're 5-on-1 defensively, but you really need to be with him because it's not impossible. It's very difficult to shut him down, and sometimes you can really just hope to slow him down. I thought Trey Miller, who spent a lot of the time on him, Trey and Jake both, did a good job of keeping him in front, making his shots more difficult, which is kind of our goal. We had some of our best defensive possessions of the year. And a couple of them, they still made shots. So, but that's what it's like when you're playing against teams like that. We're still concerned with our turnover ratio. It's a little bit too high. And when you make mistakes defensively, a team like that makes you pay. And they do a great job of making turning our turnovers into points, and they did it that night as well. And they're just they're a good team, and again, we needed them to miss some shots that they just didn't. And but again, that's what I think I was most proud of, is even though that team played very well, we still hung in there for after starting off 10 points down. We did a great job of coming back and hanging in there and competing with them.
Coach, you mentioned the play of Trey Miller. You had to be pleased with the way he played coming back from a shoulder injury. Hadn't played in 4 games, went out there and played pretty effectively.
Yeah, Trey's just he's a heady kid, and nobody wants it more than him. And he's one of those guys that whether it was 2 days or 10 days, he's going to have himself prepared. I think he made a play he stepped in a passing lane on the first play of the game, something we had talked about in scout, and he had only practiced 1 day, but he came up big for us right there early, and it's nice, especially for Jake. He gets to play the off guard a little bit when Trey's out there, so having him back, and of course his wind wasn't where it will be, or where it was when he left, but having him back out there is just a nice calming factor, and he brings an element, kind of an edge to us on both ends of the court, which is nice. I think these guys really enjoyed having him back on the court.
We'll take our first break of the program. When we return, Otterbein has 2 very winnable games this week. When we return, we'll get Coach Adrian and Jake Phillis' thoughts on the upcoming games. You're listening to the Todd Adrian Coaches Show with Jake Phillis. I'm David Kinder on WOBN 97.5. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
Hey Cardinal fans, Otterbein Athletics on the Radio is brought to you in part by Westerville Automotive. Serving the Westerville area for 20 years, they have 2 locations on Westerville Road and in the Uptown area, just seconds away from Otterbein on Main Street. They're on the web at westervilleautomotive.com. You can follow them on Facebook at Westerville Automotive Uptown or call them at 614-890-6700. That's Westerville Automotive.
This is head coach Todd Adrian, and you're listening to Cardinal Basketball on 97.5 WOBN Westerville, your source of Otterbein athletics.
There be many pirates that sail these 7 seas. Barbossa, Blackbeard, Jack Sparrow. But there be only one pirate you need care about. The MC DJ MC. Every Thursday from 8 to 10, he sails for Pirate Radio on WOBN, playing everything you want to hear on your college radio station, The Wild Card.
Fewer than 5 out of 100 people give blood. Ever wonder why they do it?
It's the one thing that we can do that we can always afford to do, and hey, you get a snack afterwards. So
snacks are great. I had never knew my blood type, and I found out in doing this that I'm O negative, so there's that added pressure knowing that everyone can use my blood at any time, and so I feel like it's my responsibility.
It's a little extra bragging power too, knowing that you're a universal giver.
Yeah, I'm pretty special.
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcrossblood.org to make an appointment today.
I'm Drew Brees, and being a dad means the world to me. And one of the most important things any parent can do is make sure their kids get active at least 60 minutes each day. Studies show that physical activity not only helps kids stay healthy, it can enhance important skills like concentration and problem solving, which can improve academic performance. This means physical activity can help your kids in the most important game of all, life. Learn more at fitness.gov.
Brought to you by HHS.
And we welcome you back to the Todd Adrian Coaches Show here from the studios of 33 College View. I'm David Kinder. We're joined by Coach Adrian and Otterbein sophomore point guard Jake Phillis. Otterbein has 2 big games this week with Ohio Northern at the Reich on Wednesday, and Saturday they'll be in New Concord to take on Muskingum. 2 teams very close to Otterbein in the standings in that all-important fight for the top 8th finish in the league. Coach, first, how important is this week for your team's overall success?
Well, I think it's nice. It's important for us to keep taking steps forward. Building on some of the momentum we had at Mount Union, and then having a couple of teams that are right there with us. In the end, this is probably going to be a pretty important week. It's only it's the last week of January, first week of February, but when you're playing 2 teams like this, that by and large, it looks like we may end up being right there with host a game, maybe at least get into the tournament. it's they're not must wins, but for us, I think if we continue to play better and try and make some strides, and again, coming off a stretch here where we've played a lot of good teams, where they've forced us to really play at a higher level, hopefully that pays off on Wednesday and on Saturday.
Let's take a look at the Ohio Northern game first. You already played the Polar Bears once this year, a 78-67 loss on December 3rd. But, Jake, that has to seem like that was 2 seasons ago by now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that was our, second or third conference game. And I think the difference would be we had a couple freshmen that played. That was our second conference game of the year. And then we played without Grant Fenner, Josh Lyles, and Matt Chellis. And I think that this game is going to be big. I mean, Ohio Northern has 3 wins in the OIC, and we have 2. I think it'll be big to see who gets that 8th spot. So,
do you feel like Otterbein of late January matches up with ONU better than the early December Otterbein team did?
Definitely. I think we have like I said, Matt Hughes and Trey Miller. That was our second OAC game of the year, and I think they've grown a lot since that game. So.
Coach, after the game Saturday, I told you if Otterbein played with the same intensity against Mount Union that they carried over to Wednesday with Ohio Northern, that I liked our odds, but you were quick to remind me that the Polar Bears play a much different style than Mount Union did. So what kind of play can we expect out of the Polar Bears Wednesday?
Well, they had been one of the hottest shooting teams. They're kind of the tale of two halves a little bit. They started off 5-0, and I think they lost 6 straight, and now they've kind of gone 1 for 1 the last month. But they like to push the ball. They do have 5 guards on the court, much like Mount Union did. Not quite as structured. They dribble drive, trying to draw and dish, and they do shoot a lot of threes. They had a couple of seniors play really well against us up there. But, it is a tough place, especially having a bunch of young guys going up to Ohio Northern early in the season. And, again, I think that was a pretty good game for a while. They got away from us at the end. But, yeah, we're still looking to put another 40 minutes together. I think as long as we do that and we continue to focus on playing good defense and sharing the ball on offense and taking care of it, I think good things can happen. But they're a dangerous team because while they're not shooting the 3 real well right now, they do take a lot of them, and they have talented kids that can knock them down.
What adjustments, if any, do you remember that they might have made since the last time Otterbein played them in December?
Well, from the film I've been watching, their personnel is a little bit different, but I mean their leading scorers, 2 seniors, are the same guys that they were before, so they haven't done a lot of things differently. Their personnel, I don't think, allows them to be as flexible as maybe ours will in the future. With us, we have some bigger post guys that are big and strong, but at the same time, when we put Grant and Matt in there at the 4 and the 5 like we did against Mount, we could be pretty successful playing some small ball, and that hurt us. Really, that hurt us leading up to probably Christmas, having some injuries, having some guys that hadn't been able to practice very much. Grant Fenner, for instance, he could be a big part of our game on Wednesday because of his flexibility to play out on the perimeter, but also be able to score in the post and guard in the post. And I thought he did a good job on Mount. It's nice to have him back, and might be a guy that comes in pretty valuable in the next 2 games, actually.
Looking forward to Saturday's afternoon game with Muskingum. That game will be in New Concord. Jake, pretty close to your hometown of Zanesville when you were a Blue Devil. Any extra family or friends come to the games when they're in Muskingum County?
I hope so. I mean, I know last year there was a lot of family members that came to the game, and I know a lot of people that go to Muskingum. So, I mean, hopefully there's a lot of people in the stands.
Coach, still 2 games away. Otterbein's already defeated Muskingum once this year, that being on December 17th with an 84-77 home victory. Given how close the standings are among the 2 teams, and you've already proven that you can beat the Muskies once this year, do you see the game as a must-win?
Well, I don't know if we have any must-wins, right away here, but it would be nice to sweep a couple of teams. They were a team kind of putting things together when we played them before, and having them at home was nice. We did a good job of getting one of their best players in foul trouble in the first half. He only played, I think, 3 minutes, and that was a big advantage for us. They've matured. They've gotten better over time, and they've had some big wins. I mean, they're playing with a little bit more confidence now than they did before. So, and then going over to their place, we've had some success over there recently, but they're a different team than they were, much like us. So it's going to be a tough battle. They beat Capital, I think, by 20 a couple of weeks ago, and so It'll be a good game and one that we'll really want to play well in, and hopefully we can get a victory.
Otterbein won 7 straight games against the Muskingum Muskies. Coach, it must be nice to go from, statistically at least, playing the league's best three-point shooting team to playing the league's last 2 three-point shooting teams.
Well, while we do look at the stats, and I think a pretty famous coach one time said, you are who your record is or who your stats say you are. But at the same time, teams play differently at home. They play differently on the road. And again, a lot of success in basketball. And you see this in Division I tournament too, when it's just one game maybe or two. Matchups can matter. Our strengths, their weaknesses, our weaknesses, and their strengths. It all depends on the night sometimes. So we don't go into the game really focusing too much on statistically if they're good or bad at this. We do individually in how they play, their tempo, their style. We try and take advantage of where we think we can, and then minimize the losses, if you will, on some of their strengths. So it'll be a little bit different between Ohio Northern and Muskingum. So we're just going to have to prepare well and be ready to go on both nights.
Wednesday's game with Ohio Northern and Saturday's game at Muskingum can both be heard on 97.5 WOBN. Myself and Elijah Gonzalez will have the call. We'll take our final break of the show. When we return, a legendary milestone was passed this weekend, and we'll talk about it with Jake and Coach. This is the Todd Adrian Coaches Show on WOBN 97.5. We'll be right back.
Imagine what it would be like to live out of your car, or to be homeless and have no place to relax safe and sound. Habitat for Humanity provides affordable, safe housing for people in need. Habitat is a nonprofit organization constructing and rebuilding over 600,000 homes and serving over 3 million people worldwide. Habitat for Humanity thrives on volunteer labor and donations from people like you. Everybody should have a place to call home. For more information, call 1-800-HABITAT or log on to habitat.org.
Do you want a taste of some great tunes? Listen to the Money Man Morning Show. Morning Breath. Want to get to your first class on time? You'll be so on time. More on time than you've ever been before. And we've got genres. So many genres. So listen into WOBN 97.5, the best radio in the world. Go with the sure thing. Don't gamble with your radio. Money Man. Listen to the Money Man Morning Show. You'll be so glad. Hey! Money Man in the morning.
If your study time is also snack time, watch out. Snacks can contain huge amounts of fat that stays on your body longer after the treat is gone. If you want to look great when the winter clothes come off, make good food choices. Tame your sugar cravings with fruit, a small bowl of whole grain cereal, or even dill pickles. If it's salt you want, try popcorn, but skip the butter. Drink non-fat milk, yogurt, and swap the hamburger for a salad. And if you have to be inside anyway, you might as well take a trip to the gym.
Hi, sports fans. We remind you, if you're enjoying today's game on your car or truck radio, to buckle up day and night. It's not only the safe thing to do, it's also the law. Click it or ticket. What's holding you back?
My son Aiden has asthma. Secondhand smoke has triggered his asthma so badly, he ended up in the emergency room and spent multiple nights in intensive care. Now he's on a whole bunch of medications. My tip to you is, don't be shy about telling people not to smoke around your kids.
Half of U.S. kids are exposed to secondhand smoke. If you or someone you know wants help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
Hi, fans. This is your voice of the Otterbein Cardinals, Bob Kennedy, and you're listening to the voice of Otterbein Athletics, 97.5 WOBN, your home for Cardinal Athletics.
We welcome you back to the final segment of the Todd Adrian Coaches Show. I'm David Kinder. As always, Coach Adrian in studio, and this week, Otterbein point guard Jake Phillis, kind enough to take some time out of his day and join us down here at 33 College View. And we always end the show talking about something basketball, but not pertaining to Otterbein exactly. And this weekend, Coach Mike Krzyzewski became Division I's first basketball coach with 1,000 career victories following the Blue Devils' win over St. John Sunday. So, Coach, before we get into ranking Coach K among the all-time greats, as a coach, one coach to another coach, 1,000 wins over a 40-year stretch. Can you try to put that into some sort of perspective?
Well, I tell you what, it's just I think it's just doing things the right way and getting great people around you. And whenever you hear his interviews, that's pretty much what he talks about, that and relationships. And to do it at two schools like Army and Duke, those aren't schools that just anybody can get into. Congratulations to him. From what I've heard, I have some friends in the business that are good friends of his, and just a class act from head to toe, and a good family man. A guy that's touched a lot of people, and everything he's done from USA basketball to Duke basketball has been a huge success. So, one of those guys that as a young coach, you look up to. We were talking about Coach Wooden at the break, and Coach Williams has had a big influence on my life. Coach Ryan as well. I think if you look at those four coaches, what you also find is are great people, and I think that's probably where it starts. And then just like them, we've all been very fortunate to have some very good people around us that have helped. Obviously with great success for those four, and in my short tenure, a little bit of success as well. So. Yeah, congratulations to him. It's an unbelievable milestone, and something obviously not many at any level have achieved.
Jake, if we were going to try to rank the coaches, obviously Coach K probably the most successful during your lifetime. If you were trying to put it into some sort of historical perspective, where would you put Coach K among the all-time greats?
He's definitely in the top three. If you look at it, I think him, Coach John Wooden, and Coach Bobby Knight are, I think, in my top three. But what's impressive about Coach K is when he took the job over at Duke, they weren't the Duke you see now today. So I think the way he brought that program from the ground up was pretty impressive.
I'd have to agree with that same top three as you. Coach Adrian, if you were to rank them, where would you put them?
I'd probably be about the same there. There's so many good coaches out there. Coach Williams, when he was at Kansas University and now at Carolina, he's a Hall of Famer. Coach Boeheim there at Syracuse, he's had a really long run. Not far down the street here, Coach Mata starting off, in his first 15 years, I think he's been as successful or close to it as a Coach K. So, when you start early like he did, that allows you to get a few more wins that some of the other guys that maybe toiled as an assistant for a while can have. Jake brought it up, and I watched the thing on him the other day. And he mentioned that early in his career he might have been fired if it had been nowadays, because it didn't start off well. And when you're building culture and you're trying to change things, it takes time. He always credits Jay Phillis and Tommy Amaker and that recruiting class for really turning things around. But not only that, coming in, like Jake mentioned, before Duke was Duke, and before Coach K was Coach K, and they had that belief in him and what he was telling them. It's not unlike the kind of things that we're trying to get our guys to buy into right now. Playing defense as a team and running, great offense, isn't the most popular thing. That's not necessarily what they've done. So, not to compare myself to Coach Krzyzewski, but I can see some similarities in when we've come in and turned programs around to the things that I'm hearing about those first 3 years at Duke, and getting really good people, that go to class and are quality people. And you know what, when you're at Otterbein, you're at Duke, we're blessed to be able to get really good people who are also very good students. And I think that translates into hard workers and guys that can be coachable and care about each other on the court. And every team I've been part of, those are the things that have really, pushed us past just, what you normally get out of a team and on to, championship basketball and some things. I can kind of see us in that time. Our record's not great right now. It wasn't last year. This is kind of the restart of a restart, since our roster is so new this year. But with this group of guys, hearing him talk about that first group of guys that he really got in, I feel the same way about Jake and his teammates. I think in time, the buy-in is coming. Hopefully they saw in a film session and out on the court the other day, that we're just doing more things well and add a little more competition, a little bit more passion, and over time some experience. I think we'll see a similar turnaround here at Otterbein. Not that we're going to go on a run like Duke did with Final Fours and things like that, but when you have good people that work hard and get better, anything can happen.
How did I know you were going to put a Kansas guy somewhere in that top list of the all-time great coaches?
He's a Carolina guy first,
so
we borrowed him for a while, and there's a few family members in my household that are pretty fond of him.
Perhaps Bill Self will be up on that list someday.
Perhaps
too.
Bill Self is making a pretty good name for himself in his young career. He's another one that's worth mentioning.
Well, we thank you, Jake Phillis and Todd Adrian, for joining us here on the Todd Adrian Coaches Show. We appreciate it, and we will see you tomorrow night at the Reich Center.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us here on WOBN 97.5 for the Todd Adrian Coaches Show. Be sure to join us next Tuesday, same WOBN time, same WOBN channel for the next episode of the Coaches Show. We also invite you to tune in tomorrow for live Cardinal basketball's Otterbein battles Ohio Northern. Tip at the Reich is at 7:30. Our pregame coverage starts at 7:15. Myself and Elijah Gonzalez have the call. For Coach Adrian and Jake Phillis, this is David Kinder saying so long till next time.